Hi, welcome to ArkIntel. Imagine this, a country celebrated as Europe's next superpower. In 2006, Spain was unstoppable. Skyscrapers rising, homes selling faster than they could be built, and its economy growing at breakneck speed. From the outside, it was a miracle. But beneath the glittering facade, something sinister was brewing. A housing market inflated to dangerous heights, regional banks drowning in bad debt, and millions betting their futures on a dream that was never sustainable. And then the crash. Lives shattered, cities left unfinished, and an economy that has never fully recovered. How did Spain's meteoric rise lead to one of the most devastating economic collapses in modern history? And more importantly, are we watching the same story unfold in other nations today? Let's find out. The story begins in the late 1990s. Spain, having joined the European Union in 1986, was looking for ways to solidify its place as a modern economic power. The adoption of the euro in 1999 was a turning point. For Spain, it was more than just a currency. It was a key to unlocking global investment. The benefits came fast. Cheap credit became widely available, foreign investors poured money into the Spanish economy, and construction quickly emerged as a driving force for growth. Between 2000 and 2006, Spain's per capita output more than doubled. For a country that had historically struggled with high unemployment and sluggish growth, this felt revolutionary. By 2006, Spain's economy was so strong that certain regions achieved full employment, a rarity in Europe. The country seemed to have turned a corner, entering a new era of prosperity. The construction boom wasn't just creating jobs, it was transforming lives. Real estate became a cultural phenomenon. Everyone wanted to own a piece of Spain. From beach houses in Marbella to apartments in Madrid, stories of tradespeople driving luxury cars and plumbers owning Bentleys became a part of the narrative of prosperity. Tax policies made this frenzy even more attractive. Homeowners could deduct mortgage interest payments and even the principal from their taxable income. Imputed rents, or the theoretical income from owning properties, were untaxed. These incentives turned real estate into a surefire investment for Spaniards and foreign buyers alike. In 2003 and 2008, housing prices soared by 71%, marking Spain the construction capital of Europe. The country was building more homes than Germany, France, and the UK combined. Developers rushed to meet demand, creating sprawling developments along the coasts and in urban centers. On paper, Spain looked invincible. The government reported budget surpluses, and unemployment numbers fell year after year. It was a golden era, or so it seemed. But beneath the optimism, Spain's economy was growing dangerously unbalanced. While the construction industry thrived, other sectors stagnated, and at the heart of the problem were the banks. Regional savings banks, known as cajas, played a pivotal role. These 45 semi-autonomous institutions operated independently with little oversight from the central government. They poured billions into risky real estate loans driven by the belief that property prices would always rise. By 2007, real estate debt accounted for nearly 50% of Spain's GDP, a staggering figure for any economy. Manipulation and mismanagement were rampant. Appraisal companies worked with banks to inflate property values, creating an illusion of lower loan-to-value ratios. This practice allowed banks to issue mortgages to borrowers who were far from creditworthy, while masking the growing risk on their balance sheets. To the outside world, Spain appeared to be thriving, but beneath the surface, these hidden liabilities were turning the nation's housing market into a ticking time bomb. Spain's economic woes weren't just about risky loans, they were also about sheer volume. The country had become overly reliant on immigration to drive housing demand, but by 2006, the numbers simply didn't add up. Spain had built more than 800,000 homes, enough to house 4 times the number of families moving into the country that year. This massive oversupply turned once promising developments into ghost towns, with rows of empty houses sitting idle. To make matters worse, Spain's fiscal decentralization allowed regional governments to borrow heavily to fund construction projects. These debts didn't appear in national statistics, making the economy look far more stable than it was. The government's reported budget surplus concealed the ticking time bomb of regional debt that was about to explode. When the global financial crisis hit in 2008, the cracks in Spain's economy turned into a full-blown collapse. Housing prices plummeted, wiping out the savings of millions of families. Developers abandoned projects mid-construction, leaving cities dotted with unfinished buildings and empty neighborhoods. Unemployment skyrocketed. By 2010, nearly half of Spain's youth were jobless, creating a lost generation with little hope for stable careers. Entire communities that had depended on construction were devastated. The central government had set aside 35 billion euros as a precautionary buffer, but it was nowhere near enough. The regional banks, weighed down by non-performing loans, began to fail. Credit dried up almost overnight, paralyzing the economy. The human cost was staggering. Families lost their homes, their savings, and their futures. And as Spain struggled to pick up the pieces, the global focus shifted to Greece, whose fiscal crisis overshadowed Spain's collapse. More than a decade later, Spain is still dealing with the aftermath. Its GDP has not yet recovered to 2007 levels, and wages remain stagnant. Today, the average annual salary in Spain is 29,113 euros, almost 9 to 11% lower than before the crisis when adjusted for inflation. Ironically, the crash didn't make housing more affordable. Prices remain stubbornly high, leaving many citizens locked out of the market. The country's reliance on the international debt has further constrained its ability to recover. Spain's story isn't unique. Today, nations like Australia and Canada are showing early similar signs of vulnerability. Australia's household debt to GDP ratio is now 116.6%, while Canada's is 104%. Both figures far exceed Spain's peak of 85%. The parallels are clear: speculative investments, lax lending standards, and an over-reliance on real estate. Spain's rise and fall is a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked speculation and misplaced economic priorities. It's a story of ambition, greed, and the belief that growth can go on forever. For Spain, recovery remains slow and uncertain, but for the rest of the world, the warning signs are clear. The question is, will we learn from Spain's mistakes, or are we destined to repeat them? In economics, history has a way of repeating itself. The time to act is now.